Hi Club Scrappers, this is Tricia at Club Scrap with the beautiful High Tide page kit, and I've got my trimmer, my collection, my accordion pocket file ready to go. Let's make some pages. Before we do that, I want to give a shout out to all of our brand new members who joined us at recent shows, and just by finding us online and referrals from our friends. We just really appreciate you coming aboard, and we hope you love it as much as the rest of us do. So if you haven't already gotten your instructions together, it probably doesn't even matter because I'm going to guide you right through the process. Let's begin by setting aside some of the goodies that we received. I'll go over this cool water brush with you and how that works. And I've got some ribbon, some really cool enamel dots here, some beautiful gems and charms, all to adorn your pages. And then we have a set of 12 photo mats. So let's get those filed according to our instructions. If you're not using our file folder according to the pocket file system, just make sure you have 4 piles, one for every pair of pages. We'll begin by finding the 3 teal photo mats. And so there's a light blue, a dark blue, white, lime, and teal. So the teal is the one that has the most green in it. Actually, I think the official name of this paper is Aqua. And we're going to file that in pocket 1 and 2. And then we have 2 light blue going in pocket 3 and 4. We have 2 white and 1 light blue. So 2 white, 1 light blue. Oh, that will go in pocket 5 and 6. 3 lime and 1 white will be placed in pocket 7 and 8. And again, if you don't have a pocket, just make it a pile. It's all good. Let's take our papers that we have here, these beautiful prints from the High Tide collection. Let's put these in the order in which we'll be using them. So we'll start out first with this wave print. That'll be the first one. So I'm going to take it from my stack and put it face down on my trimmer base. That's usually how I handle things in class, and that works really well. Then let's take one of the teal or aqua planes. That'll be next. It's the same on both sides. It doesn't matter how you put it on your pile. How about a light blue plane, followed by a dark blue plane. And then I want you to find the sheet of border strip cut-aparts. Put that face down. There should be another sheet of cut-aparts that have just a lot of different random shapes on them. And next, we will find the base for our layout, starting with layout 8. So that's going to be a sea life print. I think this is one of my favorites in Club Scrap history. I really like this print. It's got just a nice all-over pattern with an occasional sea life in there from the jellyfish and the seahorse. And then how about the other aqua plane? Maybe this darker one. Then a wave print, followed by a light blue plane. Next, we'll take another sea life print and a dark blue plane and 2 lime planes. Okay, that should create our collection for us. And we'll get started by trimming this first piece. So again, make sure you have a nice trimmer, such as this lovely Fiskars guillotine style. I find this works really well for the method that we do. So we'll begin with this wave print. Now we're going to place it right side up into the trimmer. So that means this larger wave here will be in the lower right corner, and a simple cut here at 7 inches. And that's going to isolate this section and then the separate wave. Both of these pieces are used in layouts 1 and 2. If you find these pieces are too big and you don't want to file them, just set them aside in a different pile. Some really nice simple cutting here on the teal plane. We'll begin by trimming at 6 inches. Remember to stabilize every time if you're not used to that. Then stack the 2 6x12s you made. They're the same size. And we'll trim them horizontally at 8 and 4. Now you just made a total of 6 of the same exact size piece, hopefully. Put 2 of them in pocket 3 and 4, 2 of them in pocket 5 and 6, and 2 of them in 7 and 8. And now we'll take the light blue plane and trim this at 6 1/4. Now rotate that 6 1/4 inch piece and cut it horizontally at 8 1/2 and 4 1/4. File both of the rectangles you just made in pocket 3 and 4, and there will be 1 additional rectangle. Let's cut this horizontally at 6 and 3. File both of these pieces in pocket 5 and 6. There will be a small scrap left when you're done with that section. And then we'll take the remaining long strip and trim it horizontally at 11 1/4, 7 1/2, 3 3/4. The 3 rectangles and the little guy that remains is all used in pocket 1 and 2. All right, next, dark blue plain. This is a gorgeous vellum or smooth finish. We'll trim this at 11 3/4, 11 1/2, 10 1/4, 8 1/4, 6 1/4. We're going to do something just like what we did in the previous piece. So we'll rotate the 6 1/4 inch piece and cut horizontally at 8 1/2 and 4 1/4. Once again, you've made 2 rectangles of the same size. Those get filed, one in pocket 3 and 4 and the other in 5 and 6. Take the rectangle, same thing again too. We'll trim this horizontally at 6 and 3. File both of those, 7 and 8. Now, we have 2 12-inch strips, 2 inches wide. Put one of them, you can just go ahead and file that in 5 and 6. The other one we're going to trim into a bunch of 2-inch squares, so this is easy. We'll just cut at 10, 8, 6, 4, and 2, all the even numbers. 10, 8, 6, 4, and 2. One of the 2-inch squares you just made will be filed in pocket 3 and 4, and all the rest 5 and 6. There is a tiny little scrap from that earlier strip. Now there's another narrower border strip. This also goes in 5 and 6. And then there are 2 really skinny strips. I like to call these paper ribbons. Those go in 7 and 8. Switching gears now to the cut-aparts. So we have these narrow strips. The ones on the right edge are narrower. That's what we want. We want this blue strip coming off the trimmer blade first, so that when we get to the end, we get to this most wide strip, we have that in the base of our trimmer, which gives us something to hang on to. And if you're new to this, if you look very, very carefully on the very edge of the piece, both at this end and at the other end, you're going to find these extremely pale gray registration marks, and that's what we want to align with the outside edge of our trimmer blade here. So if I were to put this in the trimmer at roughly 11 inches, then this gray registration mark is aligned with the outside edge of my trimming blade. So the next cut would be at around 10 inches. And we'll just keep separating them. Here we are at 9 1/4, 8 1/2, and 7, 5 1/4, and 3 1/4. Okay, so let's file all of these pieces, and what I do find is hopefully you've been letting them stack up in the order that they land. If you always move the pieces off the stack, then it won't be in the same order as mine, and that just makes it more challenging. So this every moment matters, 7 and 8. And I've picked them all up and I'm holding them in the palm of my hand. It's just easier to deal them out. Next we have this sort of grayscale water life here. That's 3 and 4. Then we have a green strip, 5 and 6. Just what I needed, 1 and 2. We have some checked border strips. There should be 2 that are the same. Both of those go in 1 and 2. And then this aqua colored strip, 5 and 6, and a dark blue, 3 and 4. Okay, next, take this other sheet of cut-aparts. Following the same rule of thumb, we're going to place this in the trimmer so this grayscale area is here on the right edge. The narrowest piece needs to come off first. And we'll trim it around 11 inches. Then, moving down to 8. Be careful on this next one. If you're only looking at the bottom, you would accidentally cut through this artwork. So slide all the way to 4 1/4. Rotate, so this area is here. We'll cut at 6 1/4, and we'll file this piece into pockets 7 and 8. Next we'll pick up the next strip, separate this into 2 elements. So let's go somewhere. That's 7 and 8. And I believe that's 5 and 6. Pick up the very next strip. We'll cut, that looks like 3 times. Our first cut will be at around 10 and an eighth. And 8 and a quarter. And 4 and 3/4. There's no angry way to say bubbles. 3 and 4. You got this cute little turtle wishing his birthstone, or pretty sure his birthstone is a seashell. That's 5 and 6. And now we have these little squares. So these need to be cut on those registration marks. We'll do all 4 of them. Okay, so we have 4 of them. The starfish is placed in pocket 3 and 4, and the remaining 3 will go in 5 and 6. We are getting there. We'll start with this grayscale on the right edge here, cutting at 10 and 3/4, 8 and 3/4, 6 and 3/4, 4 and 3/4, and 2 and 3/4. All right, we have an octopus. That's 5 and 6. And we have this jellyfish vertical journaling prompt, 5 and 6. The seahorse, 7 and 8. We just have a journaling prompt, horizontal, 1 and 2. The other, 3 and 4. And then this little grayscale piece, 3 and 4. One more piece. 6 1/4 inches. We have the non-colored piece, 5 and 6. And then take it from the ocean, 1 and 2. And that, my friends, is all the trimming we need to do for all 8 of our layouts. Now I have the Velcro, now these 2 hook and loop dots attached to the face of my accordion pocket file, and then I have 2 on the back of my trimmer. So the new accordion pocket file kits that we have available at Club Scrap include those little dots, just to kind of add an extra layer of protection for your pocket file, which is not designed to stand up vertically on its own. Next, we'll begin with the base for layout 8. So if you look at your instructions, you're going to find, if you turn to page 4 and you look at the bottom, this is the layout we're going to make, layout number 8. And the reason for that is we'll dry fit. In other words, we'll add all the pieces to these pages without gluing anything down. We'll work our way all the way up to layout 1, and as we do that, we can confirm that everything is in the proper place that it's supposed to be. So we will start with everything out of pockets 7 and 8, and I've got a pair of these lovely lime green photo mats, and what's cool about them is they have a mate of that aqua color, and then horizontally across the bottom edge here we've got a white photo mat, and sticking out from behind that is this little cut apart. Now this is where the water brush comes in, so I'll explain how that works. The brush comes in, I would say, a total of 4 pieces. You have a cap, you have the brush itself, you've got a little cap for the tube that holds the water, and then the tube. Now when you remove that cap and you add the tube to the brush head, it screws on lefty-tighty. My dad always taught me righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, but that does not apply in this case. It's like loading a Bath & Body Works air freshener. It's you twist to the left. Now a really cool way to load this brush is, rather than trying to pour water into it, hold the barrel. This is actually a glass of drinking water I have, but I'll just use this. Squeeze some of the air out of the barrel, put it into a glass, and release, and that draws the water into the barrel. So squeeze, and it's picking up water out of my glass without making a big mess. So that's one way to load it. So if you wanted to keep this really, really small for travel, you want to not lose the cap so that the water can be in the brush and it's only about 3 inches long. For me though, I'll probably just keep this in my crafting area. So I probably won't keep track of that little cap, and I'll just simply squeeze the water through the sponge here and into the brush so that I can use it to colorize things. Which brings me to this awesome little cut apart. Now on here we've got some images that we can choose to or not choose to color, and you could use any kind of a watercolor product, from the little pans that you had maybe when you were younger, maybe you have watercolor crayons, maybe you have watercolor pencils. I want you to say hello to my latest watercolor product. It's by King Art, Artist Mixed Media Gel Sticks, set of 24. I love things that come in sets. So does our Jacqueline Carney, loves things in sets. And I just have a nice array of colors here, 2 little packages of 12. And when you use these, you can certainly color right onto your project with them, but they're a pretty fat little head here on the brush. So you just pick up with some moisture from your water brush, pick up the color, and then you can add it to your project. So you can color as much or as little of these grayscale images as you want. On page 7, there's another longer strip. I chose not to color it, but if you enjoy that process, by all means, go for it, okay? So that just gets tucked right behind here. Then we'll have a little journaling prompt. And in your kit, there is this adorable little fish charm. And to install that, I used a paper piercing tool and a cork board to make a little hole in this right through to the back side of the layout, and I used wax linen thread and a needle to sew it on. Another option would be to use our bookbinding glue and a needle tip applicator to glue the fish charm right onto that spot. In this case, just chose to sew it on because the charm has a lot of dimension, and I wanted to ensure that it wasn't going to go anywhere. Add a little ribbon to the side of the page, and finally, I actually used a craft knife and cutting mat to make a slot right along that piece of artwork so I could slide this piece under the slot. Let me show you what I mean by that. So here's my finished page. Here is the slit I made with a craft knife right under this light blue border here. And the slit matches the width of my photo mat. So if I turn this over, you can kind of see where that photo mat slides to the behind the printed paper. There's a little knot from sewing on the fish. And to finish this, I added some of those sparkling enamel dots and a little piece of the organza fringe ribbon. That's a lot going on for one page, but I really love how it turned out. Let's go ahead and do page 7. And this is pretty easy. We've got this going on right here. And once again, I did something with my craft knife and cutting mat. So I stretched the ribbon across the page and made note of where the ribbon begins and ends. Then took my craft knife and made a slot the width of the ribbon and threaded it behind the border strip, taped the ends around to the back. Is that required? Absolutely not, but I just thought it was kind of a cool effect. Above and below this big strip, we're going to add these 1/4-inch pieces of dark blue just to create some contrast between the title and the base page. Next, we can come in with another lime green mat and then 2 of the dark blue smaller mats. I also cut a slit for the same ribbon so I could tie it around in this area, and finished with a turquoise gem. On the finished layout, there's the gem and the ribbon running through and behind this border strip. It doesn't go to the back, it goes only behind the strip. And there's the little slot I made so I can run this ribbon around just the photo mat area of that cut apart. Turned out really neat. Next in my stack of papers is this wave print. So yes, we will begin with that. And why don't you go ahead and take out all the contents from pocket 5 and 6. On the right side here, I'll start out with a dark blue photo mat and then the narrowest of the 2 blue border strips because there is an aqua strip that fits right in there. To the right here, we have the turtle with that adorable little quote and another turquoise gem. We're going to build a 3 photo spot right up here. So we have a vertical photo mat, and by dry fitting, then everything kind of gets worked out for placement. I guess this sits on top of here is what I'm seeing now. And 2 horizontal smaller blue. And what I like about this is just the way they all puzzle together really nicely. Then it will be up to you, once again, whether you color or don't color this little vertical strip. I'm using that to anchor my octopus cut apart, and finish with a journaling prompt. It all puzzles beautifully together. Now on the left side of this page, we're going to grab the light blue. Don't let me forget to show you the finished page. We're just moving on to page 5. This nests together, and then across the top we have our 5 dark blue squares. Now when I attached these to my layout, I used the awesome Club Scrap grid ruler for placement, making sure that my first piece was centered and that they were all equally spaced. So I had a really nice page header going on there. So don't forget about your Club Scrap grid ruler. It's an awesome tool. I will use a seashell and a sand dollar. I think maybe I have another one stuck in my folder. How about 2 white vertical mats nested with these guys? The tag, which, you know, I think in this case, rather than using a craft knife and cutting mat, I just took my scissors and tried to match the angle. And now I have a lovely tag. Punch a hole in the top of that tag and add some of this gorgeous metallic satin ribbon to the top, and that's going to look really, really nice. I have one more little square I'm wanting to put into that spot there. Let's see if it's in my pocket. It is not. Now the joy of dry fitting is that little square is going to show up somewhere, and when it does, I know it needs to go on layout 5. Let me show you the finished pair of pages here. Here's the finished layout 6. All I did was add some of the smaller sparkling dots here, and there's my glued on gem. I used the bookbinding glue for that. On the other page, I added a whole bunch of those enamel sparkles. I just think it's just so cool. It's perfect for this. There's my metallic blue ribbon and the charm. In this case, I did sew it on. So on the back, you'll see the thread tails from sewing this charm on with a piece of wax linen thread. You can use any kind of thread you have handy. Let's take everything out of pocket 3 and 4 and grab the base for page 4, which is the remaining Sea Life print. We're going to start out with 2 horizontal light blue mats in the upper left corner, and then we can do this dark blue strip across the bottom, and then a nested photo mat here. So we got the dark blue with that aqua color. Placement of that is going to be kind of strategic, and I'll talk about that in a minute. On the top, we're going to have the nested starfish with the dark blue square, and then a journaling prompt will get kind of shoved behind here, wherever that ends up. But so it might be wise to just leave some adhesive off of the middle section while you assemble the rest of the page. Now to finish this, let me show you what I did. And this is the same thing. Oh, I forgot my little grayscale anchoring point, and I used the whale tail charm right in this spot here. Oh, I just love him too. I kind of want him on a necklace. I might get an extra one just for that purpose. Okay, let's show you what I did with this. I love this. So once I had this mat where I wanted it, if you go back to this page a second, I made a little mark right here and here where this swirl comes out, and I made a note of where the jellyfish starts and ends on the right edge in this bottom corner. Took a craft knife and cut, remove the mat out of the way, cut from mark to mark. And that way I created a slot where I could slide my picture in, and you can see those marks on the back where this photo mat is peeking behind the page, so that I can keep the jellyfish and this little swirl in the foreground of this paper. So this is the second time I did this trick with this collection. The left page for the layout 3, coming up now, we'll use the rest of the pieces. The long strip here, again, it's your option to use your water brush and watercolors from your stash to color those elements. About a horizontal mat across the top along with this guy, this really adorable quote, and then 2 vertical photo mats. Tie some of the blue ribbon around here, add some enamel sparkle dots. Here is the finished page. I added quite a few of them here, the smaller ones in that lemon color, really sweet. And then here I just did just a quick job. This didn't take very long, but it adds a little bit of color to the left edge of that border strip there. Okay, for layout 2, we'll grab the lime green, one of 2 pieces remaining, and then everything out of pocket 1 and 2. Still haven't found that little square. I know it's somewhere because there was not a hole in my paper when I started. Okay, so this is going to go vertically along the right edge. I do the same exact swirl trick with the craft knife here. I made this go behind the swirl and add that gorgeous tide charm. Oh, when I found that, it had to go into the kit. I just had to. Okay, then across the left, my favorite little trio trick where you use a grid ruler to ensure that the 3 pieces are level and centered. I always attach the center one first. And then subdividing the space, I've got the striped border. And across the top right corner is this adorable quote about the ocean. It fits in there just right. And here is that finished page with this sewn on rather than glued on. It's completely your choice. Finally, page 1, the remaining lime green paper. This I placed sideways, and I think it creates some really nice balance between both sides. A striped border across the top, a quote across the bottom. Then if you just take this light blue piece and cut a V into each end, it turns a would have been a scrap into a sweet little banner or an anchor on which to put our journaling. And we can tie some of this lime green ribbon around that journaling prompt. How about 2 vertical mats right here? And we should have some 3 little gems remaining that we can add here. And a bunch of those enamel sparkle dots along the left edge. That'll be beautiful. So here again is that finished layout with all those elements in place. Layout 1. The High Tide collection is going to come together faster than anything we've ever done in the past, I believe. The trimming was easy, the assembly was a piece of cake. I think you'll have a lot of fun with this. So your next project is to go out and make some memories or find your photos and finish those layouts. I hope you had fun and that you'll also join me for the High Tide card kit and check out what I've done with the unmounted rubber stamps. We're going to have a good time this month. Thanks for joining me.